In today's lesson, we are going to look at a graph and write an equation for it. Okay, so first thing I want you to do is go ahead and find the slope. So there's a line provided that says slope. So you're going to find the slope of all three graphs. And on the second page, I'd like you to find the slope of all three tables. Okay. So take a minute, pause the video, and find the slope of all three graphs and all three tables. And then push play when you have found all the slopes. Okay, so let's take a look, make sure that you got the same slopes as I did. So the first one, 4/3. The other one is -1/2. Or you could have, don't forget, if you did it this way, it is also true. So you could have a +1 on top and a -2 on bottom. Both of those are the same thing. So just make sure you simplify. The next one is -1/3. Again, you could have it written as +1 over -3. Those will both work. Let's go ahead and look at the tables real quick and see what the slopes are here. So the first one, remember, you got to look at the change in the y. So that was +2 over the change in x, which is 1. If we look at all of those together, they are all the same, so they all equal 2. And I simplified it to just 2. If you have it as 2/1, that works as well. The second one, the one in the middle, let's talk about this one real quick. As you can see, I used a decimal, so -0.5, so that's -1/2. Well, any number over 1 is just itself, right? So we don't have to write the over 1. So we could have -0.5. But when we're talking about slope, we always want to write it as a fraction, as an improper fraction or a regular fraction. So I wrote the slope as -1/2. Okay. And then the last one, if you look at it, 9/3 and 6/2, they both equal 3, so the slope there is 3. You could write it as 3/1, either way. Okay, so now that we have all the slopes, let's go ahead and look at the y-intercepts. So the y-intercepts, remember that that is the b in our equation, which is our beginning point. So we need to look at the graph and find the point where the line goes through the y-axis. Okay, so I'm going to erase my red and blue just so we can kind of see this a little bit better. And if we look at our line, here's our line. Okay, where does it cross the y-axis? So the y-axis is the one that goes up and down. So we can see that it crosses right here. And remember, our y-intercept, we can always write it as a point 0, the number. So our y-intercept here is -5. Okay, let's look at another one. I'm going to go ahead and erase the slope part because we don't need that anymore. And we are going to look at where the line crosses the y-axis. So where it crosses that line right there. So if we look, we can see it crosses right here at this point, 0, 1. So our y-intercept is 1. And last but not least, let's look crosses over at that point right there, which is 0, -4. So our y-intercept is -4. Okay. So our slope is our m, our y-intercept is our b. So if we remember, our equation looks like this: y equals mx plus b. So it can be plus or minus b. So let's go ahead and write this equation out. It's going to be y equals, and then our m is our slope. So you're going to want to write our slope in there. So 4/3, and then x, and plus our b. Well, our b is negative, so we can just write -5. Let's try the next one. It's going to be y equals m. Our m is our slope, so that's -1/2 x plus our b. So our b is our 1. Next one, y equals, our m, or our slope, is -1/3 x, and then our b is -4. Okay. Moving on. So how are we going to figure out what our y-intercept is if we don't have a graph? So if we don't have a graph, remember we're looking for the point where the x value is 0, where the x value is 0. So if we're looking over here, where is the x 0? Well, that's 0 and 1. So that point right there is the y-intercept. So our y-intercept here is 1. Okay, let's look at the next one, 0 and 3. So our y-intercept is 3. And the last one is 0 and -1. So our y-intercept is -1. Let's go ahead and write our equation. So again, it's going to be y equals our m, which is our slope, so 2. Then we have to write the x, and then our b value, so +1. Okay, so y equals our m value, which is -1/2. Then we write x, and then our b value, which is +3. Y equals our m, so 3. Then put an x and our b. Okay. Last but not least, just a reminder, horizontal lines will always, the equation will always look like y equals and then some number. So for example, y equals 4, it's going to be a horizontal line. It has 0 slope, and it will be at 4. A vertical line has an undefined slope, and it will always look like x equals some number. Okay, for example, this one is x equals -2, so it's going to be a vertical line which has an undefined slope at -2. Please email me if you have any questions.